Hi, in this video we're going to use the square root method to solve quadratic equations. Now I want to begin with a warm-up, and the warm-up is to illustrate a point. In our last section we used the Pythagorean theorem to find the sides of a triangle. For example, one problem may have gotten you to the point where you have x squared equals 4. Now, we solved in the Pythagorean theorem, what we did is we took the square root of both sides, square root of both sides, and we said that the square root of something squared is just that base. So x equals 2. Now, let's go back. And the reason this worked is because this is okay because the length of the side of a triangle is positive. But now, let's return to the problem. So we're going to do this, return. To x squared equals 4. And when we first saw this, we said that you solve a quadratic. A quadratic is an equation that has an x squared is the highest exponent in it. And we said we solve by setting equation, by setting the equation to 0. Alright, well, if we do that, then the problem gets rewritten like this. So I'm going to subtract 4 from the left, and I'll subtract 4 from the right. Let's see. Let's clean up both sides. Now I have an x squared minus 4 equals 0. And now, we've probably, I know we've seen this before, this is a difference of squares. If you think of it as x squared minus 2 squared. And we know that a difference of squares factors into the pattern of x plus 2 times x minus 2 equals 0. Once we're at this stage, we solve this by setting each factor. Remember that the x plus 2 is a factor, and x minus 2 is a factor, so we set each factor to 0, and we say that the possible answers for x are found by solving this. Subtract from the first one, I subtract 2 from both sides. So here I have x equals negative 2, and on the second equation, we add 2 to both sides. And I get x equals 2. So notice that there's 2 solutions. Whoa. And actually, whenever you're solving a polynomial or a quadratic, when solving a polynomial, for example, the highest degree, I'll explain this, the highest degree is the number of solutions. Is the number of solutions. So for example, if I have an equation of ax plus b equals 0, since the exponent is implied to be 1, this would only have one solution. And for if I had an equation like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, this would have two solutions. And so on. And it's determined by the highest exponent. So if I had an ax cubed, for example, if I had ax cubed plus maybe a bx squared plus cx plus d equals 0, then there would be, because the highest exponent is 3, this one would have 3 solutions. So, with that in mind, that's why when you solve x squared, our original problem of x squared equals 4, there has to be 2 solutions. So let's return to this and show you a way that people often use as a shortcut in a way. So what happens then is when we take the square root of both sides, we know that there's going to now be 2 solutions because of the x squared. So because of that, we know we just put this in there, and this is read as plus or minus. Plus or minus. And now we can simplify. We know that the square root of x squared is x. We have our plus or minus, and the square root of 4 is 2. And that's how we get our 2 answers and solve using the square root method. Now let's try one more example here. Let's say I have a problem like this. 3x squared minus 5 equals 16. Let's try this. And so the directions on this would read solve. So I'll write that here. So I'm going to begin. Now, if I want to use the square root method, what I need to do, the technique is isolate x squared. Or isolate, I'm going to put this, isolate the perfect square. And you'll see why this definition has a better, more long-lasting understanding. Isolate the perfect square. Okay, and by that, yes, we have 16 as a perfect square, but we're not trying to solve 16. We're trying to solve for x squared. That's the perfect square. This whole piece is my perfect square. So what we're going to do is let's add 5 to both sides. So now I have 3x squared equals, let's see, it looks like a 21. Then now we would divide both sides by 3. And I have an x squared equals 7. And now that I have a perfect square, this is my x squared, this is my perfect square. Right there. Now I can solve using the square root method. So I'll take the square root of both sides. And don't forget, we need to remember we put our plus or minus square root of 7. So we have x squared equals plus or minus the square root of 7. And that is as simple as you can go. Okay. We're going to stop there, and in the next video, we'll try a few more examples. Thanks for watching.